Welcome to SuperTalk, the podcast that scratches your superhero itch. Just two suburban dads nerding out over superhero stuff on the small screen and the big. Buckle up, people. Enjoy the ride.
Welcome to SuperTalk, the weekly podcast dedicated to news and reviews of comic book media on the big and small screen. This is episode 134. I'm your host, Brian Professor Pettis, and with me, as always, Titanium Tony Estrella. Titanium.
Professor, how are you, sir?
Excellent.
Great. I love the Hell's Kitchen sweater you're wearing.
Well, we gotta, Daredevil's relevant again for multiple reasons, which we'll talk about. And funny enough, I almost, you saw me at the hockey game last week. I almost wore this to the hockey game going, this would be an awesome rock the red jersey for the hockey game. But I'm like, they were playing the Devils that night. And I didn't want anybody to think I was actually rooting for the Devils because I'm wearing the Hell Kitchen.
That makes
Hell
sense.
Kitchen's Devils.
No,
so.
you went with the Homelander jersey.
I went with the Homelander jersey.
Yeah, that was awesome. I saw you on TV. That was cool.
Yeah, that was really cool. But hey, we got a lot of things in the works. And before we get started, I wanted to discuss a couple of them. One, you and I've discussed, we're going to be hosting another live broadcast of the podcast shortly. Yep. We are working on logistics as we speak. As a matter of fact, I think we're going to be going to visit a potential site tomorrow. So stay tuned, listeners. We will be hosting another live version of SuperTalk Podcast sometime in the next, we'll say 3 to 4 weeks.
Cool.
Probably before the end of February, middle of February. We'll figure it out. We will obviously got to look around logistics around NFL playoff games and all kinds of other stuff. Yeah. We'll figure something out. So that's and then we're also working on a potential guest for the show.
That's a secret. That's a surprise.
And we're not going to mention who it might be, but we're working on a guest for the show. And that will be an interesting episode if this person does come on the show.
Question.
Very opinionated individual who many of you may know. But so working on that too. So stay tuned, people. We got a lot of stuff going on.
How is that different than what we are as far as opinionated? You know what they say about opinions, right?
What I'll say is we can pretty much guarantee the parental rating goes out the window.
No question.
I mean, you and I are not shy about that, but it's
potty mouth for sure.
We'll see how that goes. But
all right, sir.
We got a lot of opinions. Anyway. Before we get started, we want to thank the listeners that bring the show to you, our patrons. Patreon.com/SuperTalk is how you become a member of the patronship. Support the show, people. If you listen, it only costs you $1. It's really not a lot. You can do it. I know you can. Patreon.com/SuperTalk is how you become a member. And thank you to all of our patrons out there.
It's less than a latte.
Way less than a latte. So let's we'll get into our review section real quick. We do have a leftover from our last episode. So as we we reviewed the What If series last episode, with the exception of the finale, simply because you had not watched the penultimate episode, and you had not watched the finale, and you did get to watch them, correct?
Absolutely.
So I do want to first get your opinion of the what if the 1602 episode of What If? What did you think of that episode?
Well, what stuck in my head was the fact that you said it would make a brilliant live action movie. And I absolutely agree with you. I thought it was great. I thought it was really cool.
I mean,
very smart.
Every character was in the
very well done. I thought it was very well done. And I hate period pieces. I fucking hate period pieces. You couldn't pay me to watch The Crown or Bridgerton or whatever those shows are. I hate period pieces. But this was great. I mean, it really drew me in. I like the angle. I like the power sets. I like how the Yellow Jackets were these like army fighting. It was very cool. I thought it was very cool. It was more so than the finale.
Yes,
sure.
As a matter of, as I mentioned, that was my favorite episode. Up until that point, that was the most enjoyable episode. And then the finale came, and I was like, yeah, that's still my most favorite episode. Yeah. So
Iron Man and Sakaar was my favorite episode.
And that was a good one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really good one too. And that was, again, the leftover episode from season 1, which we never saw.
It was awesome.
But yeah, the 1602 episode I just thought you had every Avengers level character in the show.
Yeah.
In the episode. they all kind of had their powers, but they were like, they had Captain America was a version of Robin Hood, and
Yeah.
it was just really cool. And again, it was
Very well done.
yeah, well
Yeah.
done. The finale came, and we do want to talk about that real quick. So this is where at the end of the penultimate episode, Captain Carter is visited by Strange Supreme and says, "Hey, I need your help." She thinks she's stuck in 1602 now, but he ends up pulling her out of 1602 to say, "Hey, I need your help." And we get her in the finale, and the whole plot of the finale is that he brings her there for and asking for her assistance, and it looks like he's been working to capture all of these multiverse threats and encasing them in these little orbs, just like the orb he encased Ultron and Killmonger in at the end of season 1. And he's been spending a lot of time hopping around different editions of the multiverse, capturing these threats, these multiverse threats. And she's like, well, that's very, brazen of you. That's that's really great. And then he says, I need your help capturing one that's eluded me. And she's like, okay, no problem. And we find out it's Kyoto.
Kihori.
Coyote. Yeah.
Kihori or whatever.
However you pronounce it.
Yeah.
And she's like, look, this guy's nuts. He's crazy. As he told you about the machine he's built.
Right.
Come to find out, he is the villain of the episode. He's gone a little nuts. He's capturing all these entities to use their energy to feed them into this machine that's going to bring his universe back to life so that, his version of his love can be brought back to life eventually. Right. So
Yeah.
Christine Palmer is dead and died. And that was his episode in season 1 was him going back in time multiple times trying to save her, realizing he couldn't, and he thinks he's finally found a way.
Rehashing his obsession with Christine and bringing his universe back for that.
And I thought the episode itself was okay. Lots of great Easter eggs in there, different editions or versions or alternate versions of all the characters we know and love. They had this crazy version of Hulk, crazy version of Rocket Raccoon. I mean, there were just some really cool things in there, big battle scenes and fight scenes, but it was really centered around Coyote and
Captain
Carter fighting against Stephen Strange. At one point in time, she gets the Infinity Stones, and it's the only way she can hold her own against him. At the end of the day, I thought it was kind of like a little bit of a buzzkill.
Yeah.
Because I think up until that point, all the episodes were awesome.
Yeah.
And that one was kind of like, it was all right.
Strange Supreme, again, with his obsession, kind of, we've seen it. And then, Captain Carter holding the Infinity Stones and possessing them and using them.
A little much.
I think they really pushed Captain Carter to be this mega super powerful hero again. And I don't feel that is her role in the MCU universe. I think she is more of a super soldier that has those limited, very good, but to give her all those magical powers, and Helena threw her a crown and the swords and then all the axe, and she wielded all these weapons and still couldn't defeat. Eventually, does defeat a Strange Supreme, but still, I thought it was like a mega. Like, let's dump all of our tricks in on this episode and mush it together and do this. And I felt like it fell short. I felt like it wasn't it was good again, but not my favorite episode.
Yeah. And the big Easter egg at the end of the episode was the Watcher agreed to bring her back to her world. And you got the picture of the world tree or the multiverse tree that Loki's presiding over from the end of the Loki series. So that was kind of where we had seen some of that in the trailers. But overall, like I said, I think What If was one of the better series that Marvel came out with this year. We already got a teaser for one of the episodes from season 3 released by Marvel. Is a little 2-minute clip from one of the episodes. They're coming out with the season 3. I think they should continue to do this as long as they continue to write it well and put, these actors are willing to come back. Most of the actors are willing to come back and voice their characters again. I think it's
I
great.
think it works. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's
kind of cool. There's rumors that Star Wars is going to follow that same suit and do a what if.
Really.
Uh-huh.
Well, I don't want to get started on Star Wars because there's a lot of people out there not very happy with what's going on over that part of
I'm going to assume one
company.
of them is sitting next to me, and you can assume one of them is sitting next to you. So
Well, there you go. Thankfully, we don't cover Star Wars on this show.
Yo.
All right. Well, let's get into the news section. We've got a lot of things to jump through this week. So we have spoken at length, probably exhaustingly at this point in time, about Jonathan Majors and the Kang character and him being dismissed from that role. The rumors were, well, are they going to recast Kang, or are they going to go in the direction of Doctor Doom? Nobody really knows. Well, now the biggest rumors out there are now that they are going to move forward with recasting the role of Kang. Our biggest questions have been, who's going to take on this role? Who would even want to step into those shoes after what's happened to Jonathan Majors? Come to find out, there is somebody not only willing to step into those shoes, but somebody who might actually do a very good job in this role. And it happens to be Coleman Domingo. And you probably know Coleman Domingo from Fear the Walking Dead, if you ever watched that show. He has previously campaigned to be in the MCU, wanted to play a villain. And he seems like the leading candidate to reprise this role. And look, if you and I have been very vocal about this, we think Kang's been a big miss for the MCU. We think he really hasn't resonated with the viewers and the audience, and not the direction that they should be moving in. But I think the grand plan that they have is that some iteration or alternate version of Kang becomes the Beyonder, who has a big, role to play in the upcoming Secret War. So maybe that would have caused even more problems going forward if they didn't recast the character. But hey, I think Coleman Domingo is a great option if they have it, at their fingertips. You're not
okay.
You're not
so I think
Titanium's going to wax poetic.
I think the biggest thing here is we've all said that, or we were hoping that they would pivot away from Kang. Our feelings about Kang, very complicated. Not really. He wasn't really built as a character that was menacing and ominous, this all powerful. Really never had a big win under his belt. Like Thanos had several. So this is kind of a little, I don't know. I think I know what they're doing. They're going to use Kang, but not Kang as a big, big evil threat. I think they're going to move into the Beyonder, which I hope they do. This actor's a great actor. And I think there's several people rumored that would take this role as Kang after Jonathan Majors was let go. But I do not think this actor is a caliber of actor that could carry this franchise on his shoulders. Great actor, no disrespect, but not the type of actor that can carry this franchise on his shoulders. I'm sorry. It's just the way I feel. It is what it is, but that's my feeling on it. So
yeah, but
I still think they pivot.
Josh Brolin, when he took on the role of Thanos, had been nominated for an Oscar. I mean, was a, obviously very well-known and well thought of actor in Hollywood. Coleman Domingo has been on a series on AMC. Like you said, not the caliber of actor that could really bring the strength to this role that you would require.
And this means great actor, but again,
you could say the same thing about Jonathan Majors too, which is maybe one of the reasons why
Jonathan Majors had this presence, this powerful,
and he did so well in Loki season 1 enough that they were excited about him in that role.
Agree. And forget about Ant-Man Quantumanium. I think that was a bust. He was used improperly there. I don't think it should have been introduced there. And if they did, and when they did introduce him there, I think he should have killed 2 or 3 people for sure.
Or should have left with a victory. And then we're like, hey,
thank you.
This is the reason why this is going to be a problem.
And remember this, folks, when we get into the Echo discussion later, he should have left with the victory. So remember that when we get into the later episode.
All right. Okay, we'll move on from that. We'll kind of see what they do. Again, there's a lot to be said here. I want to move into this next one because as we have previously reported on SuperTalk Podcast, the casting rumors from the Fantastic Four will continue until an official announcement is made. From what we understand, the studio is planning on beginning production on this film sometime in the spring, early summer timeframe. I would be shocked if they don't make a major casting announcement prior to filming beginning, because once it does begin, we know set photos are going to leak and people are going to find out anyway. I do believe highly likely that at Comic-Con in San Diego in July, we may see the cast on stage promoting the movie coming out the next year. But some recent, the most recent rumors were that Pedro Pascal had been given the role of Reed Richards. Again, nothing confirmed for Marvel yet, but just too many people reporting it that he had been cast in the role. The Hollywood Reporter reported this week that he was slated to star in a movie called Weapons at the end of the which was going to begin filming this year.
Yeah.
This was a follow-on from a director who made a previous movie. He backed out from that project. And again, that project was going to start filming this year. He backed out from that project, which even leads us to believe even more that he is likely going to be starting to film the Fantastic Four movie, which is why he's backing out from these other
Nothing
projects.
official yet. You're absolutely right, Professor. But the rumors from some pretty reliable sources, too many to give credit here to, but some.
But again,
pretty
this is the
reliable
Hollywood
sources.
Reporter confirming he backed out from this other project. So
Yeah, but nothing about the Fantastic Four
Right.
when they're going to start. But a lot of rumors that they are going to start later this year, at least start filming. So you're right. I think we will get some kind of casting announcement and hopefully on stage cast of Fantastic Four at Comic-Con.
yeah, that would be awesome. Another great announcement. So Daniel Rickman, Daniel RPK, for those of you who follow him on Twitter or watch his YouTube channel or listen to his podcast, did report, and by the way, Daniel Rickman has had a flawless record in predicting when trailers are going to drop.
Okay, yeah.
Trailers.
Okay.
Predicting trailers being dropped, and every single time that he said trailer's going to drop this weekend or it's going to drop this week.
Great scooper.
Yeah,
Great scooper, but
he's
not
got
flawless.
He's got sources.
He's got sources.
He's
That's
got
very
sources.
good. Yes.
But anyway, he reported that what we all believe to be true, but he reported that the Deadpool trailer will be released during the Super Bowl, which makes all the sense in the world.
Absolutely.
Just all the timing around when the movie's coming
Absolutely.
out.
Where they are in production, where they are with the movie, when it comes out, everything.
Getting people starting. And again, we know Ryan Reynolds' history in promoting the previous Deadpool movies. This will be a long, drawn out, very thoughtful promotion cycle for this movie. He will be doing stuff on Twitter and YouTube and just dropping crazy stuff all over the place. But we believe that will begin Super Bowl Sunday with an official trailer or teaser. We're not really sure how they're going to market it, but I can't wait. And the other big rumor that came out about this is that not only is it partially, if not 100% confirmed, that Taylor Swift will be in this movie, she will be part of the promotion. So she will be in the original trailer or teaser trailer.
Wow.
The latest rumor is that she is not playing Dazzler or some other character, that she will be playing herself in the movie.
Interesting.
And
okay.
But they have said that highly likely, if not confirmed, that she will be part of the promotion of this movie.
That, I have to admit it's a home run. I mean, to pull in all
the
that,
Swifties?
all the Swifties.
Yeah.
That's a home run.
No kidding.
Yeah.
During the Super Bowl? I mean,
Huge.
seriously. So we're excited for that. Again, probably something we're most looking forward to.
We might do an episode just on the trailer.
We might have to.
Yeah.
Well, you do host the Super Bowl at your house.
I absolutely do.
We could just kick everybody out and say, "Hey guys, we got to do a little recording here."
We could do a 15-minute little quick pod
we could go in the
with everybody
quick.
here. No, we do everybody here.
All right. Next announcement. Some disappointing news. Stephen Yeun, who everybody remembers from The Walking Dead, the voice of Invincible, who's done a phenomenal job at voicing that character, unfortunately had to leave the Thunderbolts project and had previously been attached to that project in an unannounced role. Yeah. But the again, no confirmation from Marvel. The rumors were he was going to be playing the Sentry character in that movie. And I love Steven Yeun. He's
Absolutely.
wonderful, but I didn't see him in that character as that character in that role, and I was kind of interested to see how they were going to do that. But he did have to back out because of a scheduling conflict, whether it has to do with Invincible or
Love
other
to
things
see him in the
working on.
MCU,
Yeah.
but that would have been bad casting.
Yeah.
That would have been awful.
So he's out, and they obviously need to recast his character. Everybody starts going nuts the minute he announced he was leaving the project, and everybody thinks that it was going to be Ryan Gosling is going to be taken, which I think would be a great casting, as a matter of fact, for the character. But the rumors now are that Austin Abrams from Euphoria has been offered the role of Sentry for the Thunderbolts movie. I didn't watch Euphoria. I don't know this actor from Adam. I know who's in the project. That's all I know. I don't know if he'd be good. From what I've heard, the guy needs to bulk up a little bit if he wants to play this character, which is what you could say about Steven Yeun as well. I don't know.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, Steven Yeun, I'd love to see him in the MCU. This was not the character or casting for him whatsoever. Again, Sentry is a C level character in the comics. It's going to be tough to pull in.
Well, and this is supposed to be
novice fans.
the big antagonist of the movie. This is what the Thunderbolts are put together to stop. The theory behind the, again, rumors around the plot of the film are that Thunderbolt Ross and Val created the Sentry using the Weapons Plus program, accidentally created him, and now he's gone nuts and is running rampant. And so now they got to grab these, the Marvel edition of the Suicide Squad. They got to grab the Thunderbolts, put them together to go stop this thing so that we can kind of halt what's happening. And so theoretically, the Sentry is going to be the big antagonist of the movie. And we know that the Red Hulk's going to be another antagonist, which we'll kind of have to wait and see what happens in Captain America. But interesting. And I mean, this movie has been delayed, obviously, into 2025. Was supposed to come out the end of this year in 2024, but has been pushed out because of all the other delays of all the other projects. Likely going to be coming out sometime in the middle to end of next year in 2025 now. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah. This is an exciting one for me. And I think we've all been wondering about this for a long time now, but the executive producer of Echo, Brad Winderbaum is in charge of animation at Marvel Studios. He's also in charge of a lot of the TV projects that he's on. Kevin Feige's Inner Circle. He's an executive producer with the company. He was on an interview with Screen Rant. Screen Rant asked him, this is kind of an interview in preparation for the release of the Echo series. Screen Rant asked, can we safely say now that the Daredevil series and all the other Netflix series are canon and part of the sacred timeline now? And his response was awesome. He said, well, back when those series were on Netflix was a time at the company where we had to get Avengers right. That's what we were focused on, getting Avengers right. And that was a completely separate division of the company that was doing the television production. We knew what they were doing and they knew what we were doing, but we were doing our own things. But now all this time has passed and we've been able to kind of determine that what happened in those series really does kind of fall in line with what has happened in the MCU. And I think it's safe to say, he said, from my perspective, all of that is canon, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And we were under this assumption, again, when we first saw Daredevil come back in Spider-Man No Way Home, and we saw Kingpin come back in the Hawkeye series. We were like, are these the same characters from those series? And we're just not really sure. But now officially Marvel said, yes, all of that is canon. So everything that happened across all those series, Daredevil, Punisher, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, it's history now. It's part that they can draw from.
Great. Absolutely.
And
the actions and the characters.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, from what we hear, Vanessa, Kingpin's fiance / girlfriend, has been recast and will be coming back in Daredevil Born Again. again, there's so many things that happen in all those series. You kind of wonder how they're going to play a role in what's going on going forward. I mean, at the end of uh, Daredevil season 3, there was a character that was playing Bullseye that Kingpin had hired to portray Daredevil and kind of give him a bad name. And at the end of the series, he got cybernetic enhancements so that he could become the real Bullseye. So I mean, this is some crazy stuff that could happen here.
It'd be cool.
But you released this a day ago. Big announcement that we were wondering about this, and again, this gets back to kind of the rewrites that were happening.
Well, we weren't just wondering; we were worried that it wasn't going to happen.
Well, the initial response that had come out from the initial script of Daredevil Born Again gave us reasons to believe that these characters, if they did return, their return was going to be very short-lived, and they were going to
and tragic
die very quickly. And then, as we know, that Daredevil Born Again went through some massive rewrites. They redid the script. They're filming everything all over again because they didn't like where it was going, which is fantastic. Get it right.
Great, yeah.
But the announcement is that Eldon Henderson and Deborah Ann Wall, who played Foggy Nelson and Karen Page in the Daredevil seasons, will be coming back to reprise their roles in Daredevil Born Again. Way to go, Marvel.
Yeah.
I mean,
finally.
They were awesome characters played by great actors and actresses. You got to bring these characters back, and they're so integral into Matt Murdock's life, and not only life as a lawyer, but life as Deadpool Daredevil. It's so important, and we like these characters, and we want to see more of them. And I think if you're going to be doing a 16 episode multi-part series, I mean, you got to have these characters as part of it.
The character development for those has already been established. So why wouldn't you ride the wave?
Now that everything's canon.
Why wouldn't you ride the wave of those characters that people really liked and enjoyed and know? So yeah, it's good news.
I'm so
Great
happy
news.
about this.
Great
this
news.
is just really awesome. And it even makes me want to look more forward to Daredevil Born Again, which I always already was. I think Charlie Cox has just killed that role. I mean, absolutely awesome. So speaking of, we'll get into our review of the Echo series, which was released on Disney Plus last week. But before we do, we want to thank our friends over at Studio GG Studios who sponsor the show. Thank you for all your help and support, Studio G. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
So Echo.
Yep.
And I don't want to go too much into detail. 5-episode series. Good. Here's the really good news. The really good news was it was dropped on Disney Plus at 9 p.m. and they released all 5 episodes simultaneously. So you could watch one a night. You could watch the whole thing. You could, binge it all in one evening. You could do whatever you wanted to. Yeah. Great news about it. The series picks up right after, or very shortly after the end of the Hawkeye series. So at the end of Hawkeye, Echo shoots Kingpin in the face. She believes she killed him. And now she's on the run from Kingpin's mob, the remains of his mob. And the show starts off with her on the run somewhere, having been shot. And she ends up in Tehama, Oklahoma, which just happens to be her hometown where she grew up and, was raised before. We get a little bit of backstory of her, being raised there with her cousin, her mom and dad.
By the way, I think they did a very good job
setting it up.
Like,
first episode was good.
The first episode, the way they explained like her transition and the whole kind of touched base, and they took a lot from
and how she got from there to New York.
Hawkeye, how everything transpired in Hawkeye and where she is and what she became and everything. I think they did a really good job of that. I like, if you didn't watch Hawkeye or anything previous, I think watching that first episode kind of got you up to speed in a short period of time. I
got you up to speed of how she rose to power within Kingpin's organization, and how he had given her all this responsibility and kind of groomed her to be this hardened criminal.
Right.
And
I thought they did a good job at that.
I think so too. But we find out that her mom dies tragically in a car accident, which was caused by her father's involvement with the local criminal element. Somebody had cut the brake line and her mom ends up dying. And so her father and Echo are forced to flee to New York City, or they get a job in New York City, so they go there to go work for the Kingpin, which ends up leading into Hawkeye. But yeah, so let's get into kind of the nuts. I don't want to go too much into the plot, but nuts and bolts of this series. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Oh, yep.
There were parts of it I enjoyed.
All right. Hit me with the parts you liked.
Vincent D'Onofrio is awesome. And
100% agree.
He is awesome. He plays an incredible version of the Kingpin, which we saw obviously in Daredevil, and the Punisher series, and Hawkeye. He plays an awesome version of the Kingpin.
Great.
Menacing, threatening, just kind of confused and angry person. I mean,
let's rewind. I'm rewinding back what I said about a villain, about a threat. They need to win. They need to prove, in my mind, as a watching fan, they need to prove that they are enough of a threat, enough of a villain to win. And I don't think they did a very good job of that. But I agree with you. Great actor, plays that character.
He's awesome.
Awesome.
And from what we understand, Marvel and Kevin Feige have decided to make Kingpin the Thanos of the street level version of the MCU, right? So if we're looking at who's the street level MCU, right? That's Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Spider-Man. They're setting up, Hawkeye, obviously. They're setting up the Kingpin as the big bad of the street level version of the MCU.
I'm here for it. All for it.
Heavy rumors now that not only we know he's going to be in Daredevil Born Again. We already know that.
Sure.
Heavy rumors now that he is going to be the main antagonist for Spider-Man 4, which makes all the sense in the world. Spider-Man has a long history with run-ins with Kingpin and his cronies and villains, and half the villains on Spider-Man's cadre of villains worked for the Kingpin.
Yeah.
Right? Tombstone. I mean, there's a million of them, right? Yeah. So Hammerhead. I mean, I could go down the list of all these ones that work for the Kingpin. If your goal of this series was to better establish the threat that Kingpin plays in that version of the MCU as far as the street level, I think they were successful. If your goal with this series was to set up Daredevil Born Again with an end credit scene, which they did, I think you were successful there. A lot of the rest of it, I think, was highly unsuccessful.
Oh, it was mid-level and trash. I mean, it was so choppy. After the first 2 episodes, you could tell that the edits, I think this series was going to be 7 episodes.
And they cut a lot out.
Cut a lot because of budget constraints, the strike, this, that, pushbacks, whatever. And you can
But also they realized that it was too long. And you and I, when we were watching it, said it's a little slow. And that was one of our biggest criticisms of all of the Netflix series that came out. They were all contractually obligated to have 13 episodes in each one of those series. And it just took too long to get to any of the plot points. Yeah. And even in a 5-episode series, there was a lot of slowness here.
Yeah.
In this whole thing.
So you like D'Onofrio, you like him, you like the Kingpin. I thought they should have made him more menacing when not crying as much and such a softie. But I guess that's understandable. He's definitely moving forward, the big bad. What else did you like? How about that title sequence? The beginning music and the title sequence? I loved it.
I thought it was good, but I skipped through it like almost every time I watched.
It's the only thing I didn't skip through. I actually was looking forward to that title sequence every time I turned on the show. Okay. I thought the title sequence was fire. What else did you like?
Not much.
That's really?
Yeah.
What about the fight scenes? 2 of the fight scenes.
Oh, so okay. So here's what I'll say. I think the fight scenes were good. Yes, they were good.
Yeah.
So I think the fight choreography was good, and I think the fight scenes were well done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, can I go off a little bit here on this?
Now let's talk about
because we covered what I liked. The title sequence, I think Kingpin was decent. Couple of the fight scenes were pretty good, but let's talk about where this fell short for me, at
The
least in my
misses.
opinion. The
Yeah.
misses. One is the MATV rating. I think they sold this as a marketing scam to try to drive traffic and to try to drive viewerships as an MATV. I think the trailer for this showed Daredevil, and they teased Daredevil like a Twinkie in front of a fat guy. I mean, I think that they used all these little mechanisms to try to drive viewership, and it failed short. This should not. Frozen 2 had more violence than this show. I mean, a couple of blood sequences, and I really think there are really only two that were like really bloody
Yeah.
and kind of blood
The
spurts.
scene
and
we
things
saw
like
in the
that.
trailer with the Kingpin beating the guy, the ice
The
cream
trailer
salesman.
showed a lot of
Yeah.
everything.
Right.
I mean, that was the show right there. You could just watch the trailer and the show. Daredevil was a very small fight scene.
It was
although cool.
Daredevil was, so that was one of my biggest disappointments is they told us that Daredevil was going to be in Echo. He was in Echo for literally like 2 minutes and 20 seconds. And it was a great fight scene. It was a great like cameo.
Yeah.
But it was so short.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's all we're going to get from him?
It was a marketing ploy. I think the MATV rating and every hype about this is going to be brutal, this is going to be different. It was just like a regular Disney Plus show. I felt that was a lie and deception on the part of this. Another thing that I thought was very cool was the representation of Indigenous people. I think that the Indian background,
the Choctaw Indians,
the Choctaw, I thought that was really cool.
I thought they did that very well.
Except for the lacrosse scene. That whole thing was cringeworthy. It was awful. I mean, that whole scene, and they didn't really build that out. And I think that should have been more of what this show should have been about. They marketed it as Kingpin and Daredevil, but what they really missed the boat on is marketing as that background, the Indigenous people background, the shop. I think that was really missed.
So
the lacrosse game was so cringeworthy. It was like walking in on your parents having sex naked. A matter of fact, that would have at least justified the MATV rating if they had that in there, but they didn't. I thought the lacrosse scene was cringy. I didn't like it at all. They didn't really go back and really give some of the culture behind how
and they tried very hard to.
They did, and they put a lot of effort into that, but I think they fell very short.
And that's when you and I were kind of texting back and forth as we were watching this. That was one of my initial thoughts was shades of Ms. Marvel.
Yeah,
and one of our biggest criticisms of the Ms. Marvel series was they spent too much time focusing on her Pakistani background and her family history and the culture of Pakistan. Too much.
Yeah.
Make it important, make it a part of the show, but they spent way too much time doing it. This show did the same thing. I think the Choctaw Indian heritage,
but not in a
could have been important.
It could have been great. I don't think they spent too much time on the wrong things for it.
Right.
They should have spent more time on the culture and the bringing of these ancestors and those ancestors, not some cross game.
That's what we're referring to, is that to explain that Echo has these special powers now that
can we talk about that?
View her with like extra strength, and she can heal people, and she can I don't know, influence their mind somehow. And this is all drawn from the original. So the legend of the Choctaw Indians is that they came to this world from some other world, and it was because one of them saved them for their cave from collapsing, which ended up portaling them into our world. And Echo is one of many, a long line of females in the Choctaw women, very powerful women in the Choctaw lineage. And this power has been passed down along the generations to these women in the Choctaw Indian line. And she's one of them. And that's why she has these powers. And all these flashbacks we got of each one of these individual women showed them in moments of their life of these powers coming, enabling them to do special things, and then ends up being able to draw from that same power and do these special things as well.
Way different from the comics.
Yeah,
very different from
that's all brand new.
Yeah, I mean the glowy hands, the magical powers. Now that she can give people the special fighting powers and stuff. Way different. I think they missed the boat big time on that. Big time. I mean, even what Master? What's the from Black Widow? The Taskmaster. Even Taskmaster, that was kind of Echo's power, right? And they didn't even touch base on that. They did slightly in Hawkeye. They kind of touched it. She watched and she learned people's moves and fighting, and she kind of echoed those.
Replicate them. Yeah.
Why would they go away from that? They could have taken that and compounded it. And I think I saw somebody had mentioned on Twitter something about how those scenes from Sherlock Holmes, when Robert Downey Jr., it was almost
talking about what he needs to do.
Right. He would like talk himself through his
punch
moves.
To the throat.
Punch to the throat. Yeah. Extend my hand and blind him. In his moment of confusion, deafen him with that kind of thing. If they had used something similar to that, not that exactly, but somebody said this on Twitter, I can't remember who, but that would have been cool as shit. And make that the basis of her power. The magic thing with the swirly hand, glowing magic stuff.
Yeah, they totally moved away from what they had set up as her power set in Hawkeye and developed a brand new power for her based on her Indian heritage, American Indian heritage, which I thought was a miss. I thought it was, so the entire, which I was shocked by, the entire series takes place in Tehama, Oklahoma. Conveniently, when she's running from Kingpin, she ends up going back to her hometown because that's where there's a railroad that transports stuff to New York, and she wants to sabotage the railroad to hurt Kingpin.
How is she?
So that's shot? Where she goes.
Where was the gun? Where did she get shot?
We have no idea.
We have no idea, right?
Right. No
How
idea.
did Kingpin also heal his eye?
We have no idea.
If he have special powers now?
We have no idea.
I mean, there was some kind of tech that he had in the eye patch, right? That when he would press it, it would glow and kind of come off. But you get shot in the eye, there's got to be huge repercussions. Does he have special powers now?
Yeah, she's like, I shot him in the eye, and his eye was healed.
Seemed to be working, right?
Seemed to be working just fine.
That kind of bothered me.
Yeah. It was there were some misses for sure.
But not, you're right, Professor. Not hateful. It wasn't as bad as
there were parts of it I enjoyed. It wasn't unwatchable like Ms. Marvel was.
Correct.
And
I agree.
And I found it watchable, but I didn't really love it. And again, this gets back to, and I don't know, maybe Marvel's figuring this out. I don't know. But it gets back to what we've said all along, in that when we saw Echo in Hawkeye, I thought she played an amazing role in that series.
As a secondary character.
Exactly. As a supporting character.
Never had its own show.
Right. And I don't know how or why her portrayal in that limited series justified getting her own series. I know you and I didn't write Marvel Studios to say she's got to have her own series.
Well, I put out an email saying, hey, can you create a character with a scowl and a shitty look on her face, mad, pissed off the whole time for 4 episodes? Just a scowl, a dirty. Yeah. No one wanted that.
Yeah.
No one wanted that.
Again, nobody's asking for us to make it.
A beautiful smile. The actress got a beautiful smile. We didn't see it till the 5th episode. Right. Her actually have any kind of facial expressions beside this pissed off scowl. 4 episodes of that.
Yeah. And look, this is, again, I think if we look at what this character represents, is a female, strong, powerful character that happens to be disabled. She's, deaf. She's also missing half a leg. So she's disabled, multiple ways, and of Native American heritage. So this is like the trifecta for anybody trying to represent an unrepresented community.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much of that went into why this series was made, but I can't help believe that had a big part of it.
Which I'm okay with, but it missed big time on all 3 levels.
Yeah, like, spend the whole time in Tahama, Oklahoma, and they have this whole backstory with her grandmother and her grandfather and her cousin,
and don't build any of those characters like her cousin.
who was one of the best characters in the series? Biscuit. Her other cousin Biscuit was one of the best cousins.
Just because he was a goofy comic relief.
And he did very well at that.
Yeah, sure.
He was good.
Yeah.
But this guy who runs the roller rink, and you don't know what his history is and who he is and how they're related or why she's talking to him. And but she wants to hurt the Kingpin, and then the only way to do that is to go back to her hometown and sabotage a rail car
and supposedly put everybody that she grew up with or know in major danger.
Right.
Without any that it had huge problems, this show. It was entertaining, but I definitely would. You go back and watch it?
No, I wouldn't rewatch
no,
it.
No. I might rewatch the title sequence.
Yeah, right. I if I had to rate this as out of 10, I would call this a 3.5 to 4 out of 10.
Oh,
because there were parts of it that I did enjoy and parts of it that were watchable. There was nothing that was unwatchable. There was never a point in time where I was watching the show was like, this is so bad, I need to turn it off.
Yeah.
This is horrible. I don't know why I'm watching
it.
Where there have been other series and movies where that has happened. That didn't happen. I was like, okay, watching it. It just was okay.
Yeah. Agree.
And again, it wasn't like somebody who was really important to the future of Marvel, not somebody that was really important to the future of the storyline that we're trying to paint here.
Again,
I mean,
Marvel,
if we see Echo again in Daredevil Born Again as a supporting character,
great,
fine.
That's where she should have been.
Right.
That's where this whole character should have
lived
in that series. So, all right, Professor, let's ring the bell. Let's put this one to bed.
All right. Well, that's it for us this week. We'll be back next week for more Super Talk. To get in touch with us on social media, hit us up via email, supertalkpodcast@outlook.com, or at supertalkpod on Twitter or X, if you want to call it that. Until then, stay super, everyone.
Corner on the top, the man.